everybody, it's me, Undead Viking, here with another video review. Now, this is a game that I totally missed out on when it was in Kickstarter a while back. And which I'm sad that I was, because this definitely would have been a game that I would have backed. I would have backed the heck out of it, so I could have gotten all these cool little stretch goals and all the awesome little extras and what have you, because this game is flat out awesome and it hits on every single cylinder for me. And the game is called Camp Grizzly. Now, the game hasn't truthfully come out yet. It is in the process of making it to the publisher. And they are then going to be distributing it, and then they will have obviously some leftover copies that will then finally be sold. But they were lucky enough, they had some I guess what they call the black and white version of the game, if you will. And this is a full version of the game, but it is not representative of the full color art. But what I'm going to show you is going to be very, very close to what the actual final game is going to look like. Now, if you can't guess what the game is about by the title, or if you haven't heard about the game, Camp Grizzly is Friday the 13th, the board game, in a nutshell. It is a cooperative game that dallies into the semi-cooperative. Each person is a camp counselor that is being stalked by a insane psychopath that uses a variety of different weapons and attacks to hunt you down and kill you. It perfectly embodies that slasher flick mentality that was very prevalent when I was growing up. I can remember my my stepfather would take me and my friend Joe Giefer. He would take us to movies on the weekends, and we would always ask to go to these horror movies, and God love him. I love my stepfather very much. He's an awesome dude, and he would take us to these movies, and he would take us to an R-rated movie. He's like, all right, you want to go see Friday the 13th? We'll go see Friday the 13th. Okay, you want us to go see Halloween? We'll go see Halloween. He'd take us to these movies, and we would just literally be scared to the bejesus. But man, I loved those movies. I loved all the crazy blood and gore and I always loved that stuff. And so when I heard about this game and I heard about what it was about, I was like, oh, how did I miss out on this? How did I not hear about this Kickstarter? But thankfully now I have this copy. I'm going to buy a copy, or hopefully get a copy sent to me of the full version once that does come out. But let me show you exactly how this game works, and if you are a child of that slasher movie flick world that was, it seemed like in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, there was always those movies coming out all the time. I think this is a game that you're going to, if you like those movies, you're going to love this game. But regardless, I'm going to show you how to play. It is a pretty straightforward co-op game of just being chased down by a ravenous madman, and then hopefully one or more of the counselors will get to live. So, okay, cool. Well, let me show you exactly. I'm excited to show this game to you. This is such an awesome game. So let me show you how to play Camp Grizzly, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you why I think this game is so freaking awesome. All right. This is the game, Camp Grizzly. I will explain what you're seeing here, but just, this is supposed to be indicative of, this is the camp where you, the counselors, are working at. And when the game starts out, you are all clustered around the campfire singing Kumbaya songs or what have you. And then theoretically, and I don't have a backstory or anything like that, I can only assume when the game comes out in and the more retailized version of this comes out, there'll be some backstory. But this chart down here is the body count, and as people are killed, you add one to the body count. That doesn't necessarily mean the counselors, the players, but it could be other people, like cameos, that all those people that you always saw in Friday the 13th movies or Halloween movies, those periphery people that were just basically there to get their heads chopped off. That increases it. You'll find dead bodies. That increases the body count, and so on and so forth. And as the body count increases, Otis, this crazed and insane individual, will actually become more and more powerful. And so if you notice that it's already on the body count of 1. so basically what my theory is, and my idea is that we're all gathered around the campfire, and Otis has just thrown a severed head or something into the mix of the campfire, and so all of a sudden everybody screams. They look over, they see Otis is in the tool shed, and then everybody then is taking off and running. Now, the goal of the game is to obviously live and survive, but you want to be able to get to one of these endings: the van, the ranger tower, the barn, or the boat. And you can get there from these locations. You can see that those locations allow you to use those. But each one of these locations has these like 3 items around. Like this, the van, you need the keys, you need the gas, and you need the battery. And if you can have all 3 of those, whether it's on one character or all the characters, and you're in this spot, you can then do the end game and do the van finale. Now, the keys are right here. They're in Morris's office. That's the head counselor. And Morris is like a cameo guy. He'll show up, and the cameos are basically there to screw with you and ruin things for you, and also just to get killed. But you need to get over here to get the keys, and then you need to find those other 2 items. Now, underneath these little question marks, you can see those. Those are items that when you land on them, you get to turn them over. And then, hopefully, there'll be something good, you know, like the gas, or the battery, or over here, like the crank for the ranger tower, or the rope for the barn, and so on and so forth. And you hopefully will get those items, and then you'll be able to escape. Now, so the beginning of the game, what it is you're all running around, you're trying to collect this stuff. Now, you'll notice that there's these spots that are locked. The keys will unlock the locked doors. If Otis ever comes up to a locked door, he just smashes it open. So he can be helpful in that way to open up areas that you normally wouldn't be able to get into. But obviously, then you have to deal with Otis if you're going to deal with him, to get to the spot that he just opened up. Now, you can notice that there's these little yellow lines, and those are like spots that you can travel back and forth with no problem. You notice that there's these green lines with these numbers on them. The numbers I'll explain in just a little bit. The green lines are these nature trails, and nature trails are difficult to use. If you try to go across a nature trail, you have to roll a d6. And on a 1, you get lost, and you end up lost in the woods, which is not a good thing. If you end up getting lost in the woods, you can get lost in the woods in other ways. You go up to this spot up here, say you're lost in the woods, and you roll a die on your turn. And on a 1 or a 2, Otis finds you and tries to hack you apart. On a 3 or 4, you just get hurt, because, like, I don't know, you trip over a tree or something like that. And on a 5 or a 6, nothing happens. And then the next turn, you'll end up on a random spot. That's what these numbers are for. So, like, your next turn, you return, and like you go to spot number 8, and so you'd be right there. Now, sometimes if you fight Otis and you drive him off, he will go to what's called lurking, which is like kind of in the woods. And on his turn, then the exact same thing. You roll a die, and he shows up in that spot. Like, shows up in spot number 5. But anyway, so that's what those nature trails are. If you roll a 1, you end up being lost in the woods. If you roll a 6, you end up actually being successfully navigating the nature trail, and you can go to the next spot. Any other number means you just kind of wander around in a circle, and you've used up one of your movement points, trying to do that. So, to begin the game, everybody gets to pick a character. And these are all iconic characters. Jody, the loner, receives +1 to fight roll if alone. And then over here, this is the move that they have, move and health. So, like, when they are fully healthy, he has a move of 3. After he gets hurt, he goes down to a 2, then down to a 1. And then when he's almost dead, he goes back to a move of 2. And then, obviously, here you're dead. And then this panic number is, if you are panicked because Otis finds you, then, like, you get to move that and like, when he attacks you. And so, like, here's Tracy, obviously, Tracy, the gorgeous blonde, the Scream Queen, like, 3, 2, 1, 4! She moves really, really fast when she's almost dead. When Otis stalks, you may lure him in your direction, so you can try to, like, and stalking is when Otis moves, and you can try to do that as well. And so, Otis, Kevin, the good-looking lifeguard, he can move to join the fight if the fight's near him. So, here we have, Sherry. Sherry's awesome, actually. They weren't here. She can freely use the nature trail. She doesn't get lost, and she can't get lost in the woods, which is pretty cool. CJ is the coach. Counselors in your cabin receive a +1 to fight in their roles. Now, it says cabin. The interesting thing is that you never fight out. You never really ever end up outside of a cabin. You might end up being at the campfire or being lost, but you don't ever stop on a line. You're always going to be in one of these cabins, and that's where you're going to be. So when it says cabin, well, that's where you're always going to end up being anyway. So during your move, you discard a survival card to move one more space. And I'll explain cards here in just a second. Jason, the Fright Fan, whenever Jason would be horrified, you draw a survival card instead. The movie buff, he's in every movie, obviously, as well. You notice that Otis is coming up to kill him there. Basically, like, sometimes things can happen where your character will get horrified because of something they see or something they experience. They get this little card, and it's like a -1 to all your rolls, and then you can discard it at the end of your next turn. But obviously, like this character, it just, that doesn't happen. And so, and then Karen, the mentor. Campers in your cave may rule once per turn. There's actually like campers, like actually kids, and you'll pick them up, and they have certain powers, and so then she gets to re-roll those. And she can get 2 additional survival cards. Normally you only start with 2, but she can start with 4. And so there you go. Those are the iconic characters, if you will, that you can start with. Now I've just picked 4. I've picked Sherry and the Scream Queen here, and I took Kevin and Jody. This is, I'm not going to show you like step by step way the game works here, but just so you know that I just picked 4, and they had like, you can play it solo or you can play with up to 6 people. It's up to you as far as that goes. Like, as I said, each person starts with 2 of these survival cards. Survival cards are predominantly things that are good, like close call. Play after a counselor draws a cabin card, you can ignore and discard it. So these are just things that break the rules for you. A single use. Play when Otis strikes your cabin, move up to 3 other counselors to your space to help. Scream for help. And some of these will actually give you permanent powers. Like if you're, say, athletic, your movement is increased by 1. And does not, in fact, affect your panic movement. But so there's stuff like that. And there's also, I like this card here. The, single use. If you are required to tempt fate, don't. Sometimes you'll run into a combat where it says you need to tempt fate, because it says sometimes you'll just do something incredibly stupid or or incredibly horrible, and then you'll have to tempt fate, and that means that you have to draw cards of the cabin deck. That's that brown deck up there, and I'll show this to you in just a second. And then basically, if you draw a certain number of cards, and then if you do happen to draw a red card, which is the Otis cards, then Otis finds you. But another he's right there in the window, but you're sneaking by the window. Play during your move phase with 2 or more spaces this turn. You may safely move through a cameo or Otis space without crossing paths. Basically what that means is anytime that you cross paths with Otis, or if you cross paths with a cameo character like this, you have to go through the process of what they do and what happens. So each turn, you'll just move. And so, in this case, everybody's okay, who's going to go for the keys? You'll have your little discussion. And who's going to go for that question mark or that question mark? So, Jody says, I'm going to go for the keys. So he'll go 1, 2, 3, like that. Now, after you do that, you have to draw a cabin card. And so you draw the cabin card and you turn it over and you see what happens. And so here, we immediately get a cameo. So Karen's boyfriend, Eddie. Place the Eddie spawn in the space. Move 2 spaces towards the closest keys. If Eddie reaches the keys, the carrier takes 1 entry, then place the keys in the tool shed and remove Eddie and a random finale from the game. If Otis crosses path with Eddie, Eddie is killed. So basically, this guy is trying to take the keys for his own sake, and you just place them like that, and he will go ahead and he will try to he will get rid of one of these finales, and that won't be available to you. And then you move the keys, as I said, over to the tool shed. You'll have to try to get them over there. So, but the nice thing is that if you can get him to run into Otis, Otis can kill him. Oh, I wanted to show you one thing about Otis really quick. You'll notice that Otis, as you can see, wears this bear head, and he's got his little garden implement there. And you'll notice that all 3 of these tracks, the stock, the attack, and the damage all start at this level. Damage is obviously how much damage he'll do when he attacks somebody. Stock is how many spaces he'll move. And attack is the die roll that he'll get. Otis wins all combat. He wins all ties. But, you know, if you say, like, get a baseball bat that gives you a D8 and he still has a D4, you got a good shot at beating him. And so what you'll do is you'll place these little rings like that. And as they increase, you just move these down to show that they've increased. And there are ways like that you can do to sometimes decrease those. They aren't really common, but it is something that you can do. But for the most part, these just inexorably move higher and higher, and he just gets faster and tougher, and he starts one-shotting people. Because if his damage ever gets to 4, that's the maximum hit points you have in the game. So if he runs afoul of you, he pretty much takes you out. So there we go. That's that move. So then we can go here and, like, let's say Sherry goes and well, no, the Scream Queen. Let's move her. What's her move? Is 3. So she go 1, 2, 3, and she's going to be heading towards that question mark, you know, to try to see what it is. We'll take a card. We'll turn it over, and here we found a camper. And so. And Angela can take care of herself as long as she has Mr. Slicey. When Otis strikes, Angela may fight as a counselor would. Mr. Slicey, she's got a D6. If Angela fights Otis and loses, she is discarded and the body count is raised by 1. So here you can see this kid has the knife behind her back, whatever. But you get to keep that, and she travels along with you, and you can have her fight, and which is, you know, once again, nice little ability that you have. And so, and it just fits that once again, that storyline or you know, those movies that you've seen where the one kid, you know, like is willing to fight back or whatever. So, and let's go. Remember, Sherry can actually take these nature trails. So we'll go like this, like 1, 2, and she'll go to the nature trail, and she'll move over to this spot so she can get over here into the boys' shower. Oh, Sherry, you naughty little girl. But she can maybe head for that one. So then we'll turn one over for her. Oh, and she found a camper too. Now here's Morgan. Morgan excels at first aid. At the end of your turn, Morgan can attempt to heal one counselor in his cabin and heal an injury on a 2 for 4 and a D4 a 1. Causes 2 injuries and he feels really bad by it. But still, you know, once again, you carry that camper with you. And finally, Kevin, who is the good-looking all-American lifeguard, he is going to head towards this key over here. So we'll go 1, 2, 3 like that. We'll turn this over. And, oh, we got another cameo. Head Counselor Morris. Place the Morris in the spot. During a stock, 1 space towards campers. A counselor across the path with Morris shuffles their campers back into the cabin deck. Otis then stocks 2 spaces for each camper returned. If Otis crosses paths with Morris, Morris is killed. And so, once again, somebody who's like these campers that we've just got that are actually really good, you know, that are really helpful, will you know, have to try to stay away from him so that he won't get those. And so now, like, after everybody's gone, we will then move anybody that stalks, which is mean these cameo people will move, and plus Otis will move. And so, if you look at Head Counselor Morris, he moves 1 space towards campers. So we know that Sherry has a camper, and we know that Stacy has a camper. So he's going to move 1. He can't go through the nature trail, so we'll just move him right there, like that. And then he moves 2 spaces towards the keys, actually. So we'll go, and he can't go through there either, so we'll go 1, 2. Like that. And so he's going to try to make his way, so it's kind of a race to see who gets to the keys first. But then Otis moves, and Otis will move towards the closest cameo or counselor. And so you have to count the spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4 to her, and 1, 2, 3 to her, and let's see here, 1, 2, 3 to him. But now one of the rules for breaking a tie, so there's the space to 3, is that he will go towards the spot that has the least number of cameos and counselors in the location. So he's going to go after her. So remember, he destroys locks. So 1, So he's going to move here 1, but if he had moved again, he would have just moved into that spot and destroyed the lock. Now, if his move had been like 3, like you'd think 1, 2, 3, he actually bursts open the door and like he destroys the lock, but then he ends his turn like so. But now he's sitting in the middle of the campfire, and next turn he'll move. And so now the game will continue like this. Each person trying to get to space. So like next turn comes, and Jody will go 1, 2, and you can choose to pick up, you can pick these things up, and he'll pick up the keys, so he has them now. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry, he can't. Let's actually see if we can make it. So 1, and let's see if we can get through the. So a 6 would get us through the Ninja Trail. Nope, nothing. Let's try one more time. Nope, 2 2s, so that didn't do any good. So he has to draw a thing. Otis, chiseled features. Otis strikes. The first counselor to panic is disfigured. Counselors who cross paths with you are horrified. Discard after. So, if that happens with an Otis strikes card, you get this nice little token here that says you have chiseled features because, well, he used a chisel. And so Jody would, his pretty little face would then be destroyed, and we'd have to leave, that on there, and like I said, until he gets healed. So, oh, poor Jody. So that, so that's one of the kind of funny bad things that can happen to you. Now, let me just show you some of the other cards here, and I won't keep playing it through the game, but anytime you draw an Otis Strikes card, Otis immediately moves to your spot and attacks you. Sometimes you'll get a weapon like a chainsaw, and the number of hands down here will tell you how many hands you need to use to have it. If you have 2 one-handed weapons, you can use them both, and you can see that you roll a d10 for that. Sometimes, here's an axe, pretty straightforward. Some of the things you'll set a fire in a cabin, and so then there's these tokens like so. That you'll place in those cabins to show, and then you can see that whenever you're in there, you roll a d4. 3 or 4 you're safe. On 1 or 2 you take an injury. Let me just find if a thing that allows you to actually some of these things like this, closed door. Choose. Open the door. Draw 1 survival card. Then tempt fate 2. Or back away slowly, move back to where you started this turn. So if you open the door, you get to draw a survival card, which, is usually something good. Here's that close call card. And then you can use that. But then you have to tempt fate 2 cards. And so you draw 1, and Otis strikes immediately. But it doesn't even matter if it's an Otis strikes card. It would be, and then, any card that is red, here. Like this. That would mean an Otis Strikes card, even though it's something different, the Prankster or whatever. And this would be something else entirely. But in that case, since you drew a red card, Otis would strike you. But no, I like this card, the Prankster. Tonight's the anniversary. It's been 15 years since Jeremy played his final prank. So you can sit there and you see the guy's gonna put on the little bear mask or whatever. But when you pull this over, it says increases Otis's stock stat by 1. So you would if you had found that, you'd increase that. And then a question mark appears at the campfire. So you put another clue over there at the campfire. Things classic moments I think he's dead. Place this card in front of Otis. The next time Otis is defeated in a fight, he remains on the board. Then discard this card. Instead of having him wander off to stock or whatever. And there's just tons of great art like this. Obviously, holding a severed head, heavy fog or whatever. And so that's what this card is. And here we go. And just, as always, in any game, about slash, fooling around, rule number 1. We weren't doing anything. We were just, move a counselor of choice to your space, and you begin, fooling around. And then notice it's a tempt fate 5. So, because what happens in any slasher movie, if you start, experiencing the nookie, usually is a signal that somebody's going to, storm into your room with a spear or a machete or an axe, and is going to put an end to you. So, but there you go. I mean, combat with Otis, like I said, is pretty straightforward. If you're lucky enough to have a weapon, you compare rolls. So like if he had a D6 and you have a D8, you'd roll. And so like a 2 and 2, that would be a tie, meaning Otis would win. Otis does his damage level to you, and then you have to run away from him, whatever your panic level is. That's on the, like, she's a panic 3. You can move 3 spaces, and you have to run away from him. You can't pick up anything or anything like that. You just run away after you get hurt. Basically, you do all those things, and then if you can get, like, your people together, like, say, here on the boat, or whatever, like, that's a cameo, I apologize. Like, so, like, let's say, like, there's 3 of you, and Jody is still over here with his horribly chiseled up face, but the 3 of you, you've got the keys, you've got the crank, you've got the rope, and you say, sorry, Jody, but, you know, you're done for. You can go ahead and do the boat, and flip it over. And so, the ending, you flip it over and it tells you what it is. So, a tippy test. Roll a 10-sided. If total is less than the number of counselors and campers in the boat, discard the campers, and each counselor takes 1 injury. So, you have these 3 people. Let's say they each had a counselor, so there's 6 total, or camper, so there's 6 total. You roll a d10. A 7, so you're lucky there. No, you don't discard the campers, so you get to use their abilities if they have anything that helps. And plus, none of you take an injury. And then Grizzly Falls. Each counselor rolls a d6. Otis pulls you over the falls. You take 3 injuries. You fight Otis alone. If you panic, meaning you don't have a weapon, or you lose, you die, and you're pulled under. Take 1 injury for every card in your backpack. Your backpack is just how many items you have. And the narrow escape, take 1 injury. So at this point, most of you are going to be nearly dead, so unless you roll really well, that's going to take you out or whatever. So you do that, and then at the very end is the end. If any counselors survive the boat, Otis disappears over the falls, but no body is recovered. The counselors who survive the boat win the game. Any counselors who miss the boat are never heard from again. You know, just, and so you can see there's the mask floating down the river, whatever, and the whole "the end" question mark. But I mean, and that's how apropos is that for an ending of a slasher movie, like some gritty, horrible final fight that ends up with half of them dying, or maybe all of them dying, and just one, like, scared out of their wits, totally traumatized for the rest of their life survivor that managed to, like, live to see another day, but are never the same again, if you will. But there you go. I mean, the game is incredibly straightforward. I'm just going to flip some of these over, show them to you. Like, here, you can get, like, these aren't always good. There's, like, an Otis Strikes. Here's the rope. You know, first aid station, so you can actually heal some injuries. Oh, another rope. The crank. So actually, this was the one that they would have got it, because the rope, the crank, and the keys. It should be noted that under the very unlikely situation that you would turn over all of these and there wouldn't be the right parts to do any of the endings, you do then just discard them all and you put new ones out. But like I said, that almost will never happen. It'd be an extremely rare situation. Some of the other question mark things you get are just like a body count, and so you would then just move this forward. It should be noted that on the body count, when you move it forward, like you can say it's +1 stock, +1 attack. It's when you reveal them and it goes past them. That's when Otis gets the extra abilities. If the body count ever gets to 12 and goes 1 more, then like pretty much like all hope is lost, and you all go to the campfire and you fight Otis one last time, and most likely he will destroy you, because at that point all of his stats are maxed out and he will attack you. But so you can see, like, it's not always always good stuff. Like, Otis will attack you or whatever. But, like, here's one, like, you can draw a survival card and stuff like that. But so there's other things there that can possibly happen. But if you've seen it in a slasher movie, they've reproduced it here in this board game. And I kudos to the designers, because they really have done everything they possibly can to make it feel like this is a pretty accurate representation of a Friday the 13th type slasher movie, if you will. So, all right, well, I love the game. It's awesome. I have a ton of fun with it. So let me tell you exactly what I think and why I think it. One of the things that I'm really upset kind of about the fact that I missed on the Kickstarter is I think, and I'm hoping it wasn't an exclusive, they actually had a soundtrack to listen to as you played the game, and I can only imagine how awesome that is. I mean, because if you think back to like some of the more awesome horror movie soundtracks, like Friday the 13th or Halloween, I mean, they're just iconic, and I can only imagine that they probably come up with something really awesome for this as well. So, all right, well, there you go. I mean, there's Camp Grizzly for you, and I hope I was able to convey just how the game felt as you played it. But this is a game that is the quintessential beer and pretzels arena, if you will. You're not really making really highly strategic choices in this game. You're not even really making choices that are like a gamer's choice, if you catch my drift. I mean, there's ways to game the game a little bit when you play it. You're just like, well, I'll move over here and I'll get him to follow me a little bit and what have you. But even then, even when you do stuff like that, I'm actually reminded of old movies that I used to say where it was just like, there would always be that one guy. It's like, go, you head to the boat. I'll get him to follow me, you know, and you know, that guy's dead. That guy's gone, you know, and like, you know, and pretty soon later on you see that guy's severed head is being thrown into the canoe as the person they're trying to paddle away or whatever. But I mean, so that stuff like exists like in the game where you're like, okay, well, you know, it's like I'll get Otis to follow me and you guys can go over there and grab the keys and you know what have you. But you know, it has a way of like fitting its way into the narrative of the game, and which is the big reason why I love this game. It is a game that has a story that it tells me, and this is a game where the 4, 5, or 6 of us that are playing it are always sitting there and acting out the action as we're going. We're screaming and yelling at each other for their stupidity. It's like, you know, or when somebody actually is like, that's it, you know what, I got the items, I'm out of here, I'm leaving, screw you guys, I'm going home. You know, so, and then it's a wonderful feeling when you're playing the game, when you realize that you have tried so hard to stay alive for the most of the game, and you're all kind of working together. It's like, okay, let's get there, let's do this, let's make sure we get to that point. And then as soon as somebody, like, you know, throws you out the window and like heads and tries to escape and survive on their own, you immediately start rooting against them and like trying to wish the most evilness as you possibly can, and wishing bad luck on their rolls and what have you as soon as they make those choices. And I love that about the game. I love the fact that like a lot of games say, okay, are trying recently to be a semi-cooperative board game, and that is such a difficult thing to do. I mean, because unfortunately you have situations where you know, it's like you're all working towards that end goal or whatever, but you know, it's like, oh, you know, should I kind of, you know, like mentioned this earlier, but should I kind of game the game at this point and just kind of not quite do as good as I possibly could in the situation because of the possibility that I might be doing something on my own end, you know, if you follow what I'm feeling. And this game, you know what, it's over so quickly that it really doesn't matter. I mean, you don't really have time to try to, like, you know, be that little scurrilous bastard and undermine everybody else's attempt, because Otis is a one-man wrecking crew. At the very beginning, yeah, he's kind of slow and he's tough to deal with and he's tough to track down. But the thing is that you can't even fight him unless you find a weapon. And I've gone through many games where it's like I'm moving around and I can't find anything. I can't find a baseball bat. I can't find a hatchet. I can't find the chainsaw. I can't find any of the weapons that you possibly can find. So when Otis does find me, I'm screwed. He just does damage to me and then I run off. And like pretty soon, especially after you've been hurt and you start, like, instead of moving 3 or 2 spaces, you're moving 1, and you realize that like you are just not going to make it unless somebody else comes around and helps you. And that's when everybody kind of like just says, well, he's dead to us, you know. They leave you to his tender mercies, and then, you know, take off and head over and try to, like, you know, get the battery that they need to get the van running. And so, and it's all part of that story where you're like, oh, you bastards, you know, and as, you know, as the machete comes down and takes you out, you are riveted to the game, and you sit there and you watch, and you just root for the serial psychopath to kill all of your friends, and you're really disappointed when they win. But that's all part of, like, the fun of this game. Now, I realize that maybe some of you will be like, I don't want to wish my friends were hacked to death with a garden rake, you know, but then maybe this game isn't for you. But if you are somebody that can laugh at poor dice rolls, can curse your bad luck, can like wish the most evil of evil outcomes for your best friends, then this is a game for you. If you loved the slasher flicks that were prevalent back in the 80s, and, like, you know, and there's been some since, but I mean, I'm talking like the classic ones. If you're somebody who loved those movies and loved, you know, like those buckets of Caro syrup that they dumped on the floor with all the blood and everything like that, if you like that stuff, this is a game for you. And the best part about this is as you're playing it, there's all these cool little things, that, you know, all these cool scenes and things that obviously came directly from those movies, you know, and just everything about it, like slowing down as you get hurt, but then as you're almost dead, you all of a sudden get really, really fast. I mean, obviously, those things are perfect. The fact that this game really emulates very well the whole, like, yeah, I'm running as fast as I can, and the crazy guy with the with the mask, he's just walking. How does he catch up to me? But, like, because of the fact that this game makes it so, you know, Otis can use all those secret passages and everything like that, and you have to, like, go, you know, through all the cabins and what have you. It's awesome. I mean, and plus, inevitably, there's always, like, a great moment or two, like a great cinematic moment or two, where, you know, like, you're all gathered ready, and you're gonna, like, head to, like, say, like, and this is just a recent game that we had. We were gonna try to do the Ranger's Tower, and we're gonna escape via that route. And we were all just sitting there waiting, and we're getting ready, but we're waiting for one person. It's like, you wait for me? Okay, we'll wait for you. We'll be helpful. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, like, we turn over the card of, like, the glass breaking. And so, like, Otis burst through the glass window, grabbed the guy that had the keys that we need, dragged him back out, took him to the middle of the camp by the campfire, killed him. And then, but add in the fact that the shattered glass, like, actually hurt us to the point where neither me or the other guy could move hardly anymore. We were down to, like, 1 hit point each, and the other person was trapped on the other side of the campfire, who the person we were waiting for. And now we couldn't escape anyway because of the fact that the guy who had the part that we needed has just been ripped apart over by the campfire. And so, and that then began the slow decline into ruin, and we were all never heard from again at Camp Grizzly. But I mean, something like that, it's an epic ending, and we laughed and laughed and laughed, and we cursed everyone else, and we cursed our decision to wait for that moron that was on the other side of the camp. He was dead to us. We should have just left him. But we lost that game. And here I'm telling you this story, and I'm smiling, and I'm laughing at the thought of it. And that's a mark of a great game. You know, and it's a co-op game, and it kicks your butt. And I do my 3 rules of a co-op game. It should beat me the first time I play it. It did. It should beat me most of the time. It does. And I should always feel like everyone has an equal opportunity to help out. Well, everybody in this game, at some point, you start working together. But after a little while, you kind of all just are running for your lives, and you're not really working together anyway. So that third bit where I don't like it when I play a game and somebody else is telling everybody else what to do, that never really happens with this one. So it meets my cooperative game seal of approval. Heck, it meets my awesome game seal of approval. And I can't wait to see what the full-fledged portion of this game is. I will do whatever I have to do to get all the cards, all the expansions, everything I can possibly get, because this is a game that I'm going to drag out for every single gaming convention I go to, for every single gaming weekend I go to, and by and large, it's going to get played a lot, just because my friends and I, my gaming group and I, it's a constant laugh and argue and scream fest when we play it, and that's what a game's supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be a hell of a lot of fun every single time that you drag it out of your game shelf, and this one definitely is. So there you go. The game name is Camp Grizzly. If you like cooperative games, if you're a product of slasher films, if you love a game that has an awesome narrative, has great immersion, and just is a blast to play, then you need to track this sucker down, you need to get a copy, and you need to play it. So there you go, Camp Grizzly. If you have any questions or concerns or ideas or theories or whatever, please leave those and I will answer those to the best of my ability. As always, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Without you, my loyal audience, I would have probably stopped doing this a long time ago. Awesome. Well, you have yourself one heck of an awesome day, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.